I'll call this meeting to order of the Johnson City City Commission for Thursday, April 21st. We're meeting at 6 p.m. in the Municipal and Safety Building and in the Commission chambers. And with that, I'll invite Pastor Matthew Miller of the Vineyard Fellowship to come and bring our invocation. If you'll all stand.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Honorable Commissioners. Hallelujah. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we bless you. We thank you. Father, we thank you for this wonderful city. We thank you that you have brought us from all over the United States, and even, Father, that there are some people that have been born in this wonderful city. Father, we thank you that this city is going to be known as a city on a hill. This city is blessed by you, and we thank you, Father. Father, we ask that the leaders that govern and rule would be men and women of righteousness with holy values, Father. I ask that you would lead through these men and women, that you would give them your wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Father, be with them tonight as they make decisions, as they hear all of the things that are going on among the city. Bless each one, and may your will be done here tonight. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, Yeshua the Messiah, amen.
Amen. You'll turn and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Ball, I understand you had an agenda modification to request.
Yes, Mayor. I would request consideration by the board to add item number 5.2, consideration of approval of a beer license for Juan, Sayo, LLC at 104 Tipton Street, Johnson City, Tennessee.
If there's not objection, we'll consider it so ordered. Move for approval. Do we need a motion?
Yes.
Okay, well, a motion. Vice Mayor in a second from Commissioner Brock. Call the roll.
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Thank you. The next order of business is consideration of the approval of the minutes for the regularly scheduled meeting held Thursday, April 7th.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. If there's not discussion, we'll call the roll.
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
I'll abstain, I wasn't there.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor, the next order of business is resolutions and proclamations. The first is a presentation of proclamation recognizing May 5th, 2022 as Children's Mental Health Acceptance Day.
There is no microphone.
Well, that's an unusual thing. It's over here.
Oh, there it is. Oh, I'm sorry. You moved it just across the room.
Come on. Takes so very little, just move something a little bit and I can't find it. Thank you. I'll read the proclamation. Whereas addressing the complex mental health needs of children, youth, and young adults and families today is fundamental to the citizens of Johnson City, and whereas the need for comprehensive, coordinated mental health services for children, youth, young adults, and family places upon our community a critical responsibility, and whereas it is appropriate that a day should be set apart each year for the direction of our thoughts toward our children's mental health and well-being, and whereas Tennessee Voices for Children, through its unique approach to serving children and adolescents, is effectively caring for the mental health needs of children, youth, young adults, and families in our community. Now, therefore, I, Joe Wise, the Mayor of Johnson City, do hereby proclaim May 5th, 2022 as Children's Mental Health Acceptance Day, and I'll present that to you and invite any comments. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank the City of Johnson City, the Mayor, and distinguished board for giving us this privilege to be able to proclaim this day as Mental Health Awareness Day. Thank you so much for allowing us to work in your city and to work with your community.
we thank you for the work you do. Would you like to add in? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Mayor, our next presentation is acknowledgment of the retirement resolution of Deputy Chief Harrison.
Sure you want to do this? You could turn back. All right. I want to thank you. Whereas David Harrison began his employment with the City of Johnson City on December 26, 1984, as a public safety officer before transferring to the fire department in the spring of 1990, where he remained through the remainder of his career. And whereas over the years, David Harrison was promoted through the ranks to sergeant engineer in 1995, lieutenant in 2004, captain in 2012, and deputy fire chief and interim fire chief in 2017. Whereas David Harrison's leadership has had a tremendous impact on the fire department, where he has authentically placed the needs of personnel before his own and actively mentored a large portion of the department's leadership. And whereas a part of this initial group of fire personnel to receive their EMT training, David Harrison has played a key role in the development and implementation of the Medical First Responders Program for the Johnson City Fire Department. And whereas David Harrison has laid the foundation for the department's ISO 1 fire protection rating, effectively applying his vast knowledge of the fire service to help the Johnson City Fire Department to meet the rigorous requirements of this achievement. And whereas David Harrison has always been quick-witted and never missed an opportunity to laugh with his coworkers, making even some of the most difficult days go by with ease. Now therefore be it resolved by the Johnson City Board of Commissioners to officially honor and congratulate David Harrison upon the occasion of his retirement after 37 years of outstanding service to the City of Johnson City, its citizens, and to our community. And with our thanks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'll just say you have an excellent fire department, something you can always be proud of. These guys and gals really know what they're doing, and it's only going to get better. So the City of Johnson City has been a great place to work, and I really appreciate everything that you've done.
And the chief is lurking right over your shoulder. And come on.
We want to give you this in appreciation of everything you've done for the department. I want to personally thank you for being a great friend of mine throughout my career. You've been a mentor to me, to most of our department, and I can never honor you enough for what you've done for us. And I'm blessed to have you as a friend, been a wonderful coworker, and I continue to remember everything you've taught me through the years, and I will always cherish that. And thank you for everything.
Mayor and Commission, the next order of business is recognition of the Johnson City Fire Department for receiving national accreditation.
This is kind of a big deal.
Real big deal.
Come on up.
Chief.
There you go. Words. I now have words. I'm going to just go without the words. This is a big deal. And these guys and gals in our fire department have now been working for several years. And I know I played a very, very tiny little part of it when the visiting team was here 2 years ago, or March of last year, so it's just over a year ago. And they had folks that were subject matter experts across a whole range of components of the fire service who were here and spent time with various elements of the leadership of our department. Very rigorous process. We're just in Florida about a month ago, And so this is a significant accomplishment. We have an accredited police department in Johnson City. Now we have an accredited fire service in Johnson City, and I couldn't be prouder of the contribution that each of you made to making that happen. And so, Chief, I'll turn this over to you if there's anything you'd like to add.
Yes, I'm very proud of this accomplishment. These gentlemen, Adam Momberger is our accreditation manager. He has done a tremendous job with this. Jason Powell played an integral role in everything with the data management, which was an overwhelming task. All the men and women of our department and our city have worked very hard for this achievement, and this places us up at a level not many departments in this country can say they're at. So in the state of Tennessee, we're with one of 3 that has an ISO 1 and an accreditation rating. So we're very blessed for this, and I'm very thankful.
Thank you. Do you need us to stand
Pictures.
still? Okay, do you want the commission to stand up, or how do we squeeze the commission in here?
We won't photobomb you.
Problems.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank y'all for what
Thank
you
you
do.
all.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Our next presentation will come from Alicia Phelps on the remote worker campaign update. Welcome, Alicia.
He's coming.
There you go.
Sorry for the delay. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, and Ms. Recorder. I am back for our quarterly update with the remote work campaign, and we are close to 1 year of this program. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but we'll be nearing with our final update in July, so I'll be happy to report our overall campaign numbers then. Just to close up, our first round of acceptance was September 2021, and we began advertising in June, so it's been quite the learning process for us, and we thank you for your support. We'll move right into advertising to remote workers, and I do want to add that since my last update in December, we were only running on organic reach, meaning that we were not advertising during those months strictly because it's a tough time to be advertising with the holidays and interest and things like that. So organically, December through March, we did still receive over 1,200 page views. 526 of those were new people. Their average time was 38 seconds on the website, and our top cities were Nashville, Atlanta, Houston. Those were kind of expected as they're near our target markets. Well, we did begin advertising in April, and we'll run through June, and our reach for that is the potential of 1.2 million, and our top cities for the last two runs of this, the 2 phases, have been Dallas, Nashville, and Chicago. Our outlets continue to be Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and streaming TV. We love streaming TV and LinkedIn for this. We've seen a lot of fun results from that. Okay. And then we'll move over a little bit to look at our applicant profile. As of April 11th, 2022, so not too long ago, we have had a grand total of 185 applicants. 156 have been eligible out of the area. We have doubled our accepted applicant pool since we last met to 24. We've expedited that process with the selection committee, and the potential impact, as you can see, is 357,000 so far. That does not include applicants for April, however. So we'll have April, May, June next time. Our locations, I won't read those off to you, but they span throughout the country. And it's been interesting to see, like Wisconsin, Oregon is on there a lot as well. Those are folks that we weren't advertising to. And then our top industries, the newer one of obviously finance, IT, professional services, healthcare, and wellness have continued to be on there. They were target markets for us. But we've also found that a lot of our applicants have been entrepreneurs and business owners. So we're really excited to see that coming in as well. And then percentage-wise, 15% of the folks that apply are accepted. And several of these applicants, as we've begun to develop relationships with them as they move into the area, their partners have been entrepreneurs, or they have stated that they want to open up a business once they get settled in. So we're working with Founders Forge on that, and continuing to see how that grows. That was a faucet that we saw that we didn't expect. And I can say for April so far, now that we're advertising, we've had at least 20 people apply. I know that you are familiar with the reception and welcome process, but we will have one in April. It will be another reception with our partners at Bank of Tennessee. We provide our applicants that are accepted with things to do while they're here for the weekend, and then we also provide an opportunity for them to chat with current remote workers in the area. Added to this time for this run due to surveys that we had received from applicants that have been accepted. They wanted an organized downtown tour on Saturday, so we'll be doing that. It will also include visits to a couple of local restaurants, things like that, breweries and coffee shops. And Visit Johnson City will lead that, and they'll meet at Spark Plaza for that. And we try to coincide that around a festival or something that's happening downtown. Our next one will be in the summer, most likely June and July, as we kind of move forward with bi-monthly meetups for the community. And based on their interest levels, they want to explore the outdoors with hiking and things like that. So we'll work through that. As we kind of wind down a year of the program, we know that, and we knew that this wasn't going to be something that was going to take place forever. We knew it was something we needed to get into, but we knew it was going to be a train that eventually would slow down. And while it really hasn't slowed down a lot for the interest in the area, as we kind of niche and shift with the program, looking ahead for summer 22, and as we look at the longevity of this as we move along, the goal would be to create a network of remote workers that are already here, as well as our new ones that have moved in which Johnson City serves as the hub of remote workers in Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. We'll do that with familiarization weekends and receptions again. We'd like to still continue running the program, but instead of the incentives and things that we offer at the moment, we'd like to do referral incentives, and that will be folks that have already been part of the program and they refer their friends. We've noticed that folks have already said, oh, my friend applied and we hope they can get in, things like that. So we're looking at a referral program, and still continue with some advertising in our top markets and local campaigns as we build the community of remote workers. We have invited them to our familiarization weekend this go as well, and so we've had a great response from that, as well as we continue with bi-monthly meetups and activities, throughout the year. But that is all I have for this evening. Do you all have any questions?
Other questions?
Just what happens in July, July 1st?
Yeah, so we've been working up a little bit of a budget to see what that would look like. It is a more of a minimized campaign, and Alicia Summers is here, and she's happy to go into those numbers with you on that as well. But the in June would be the fiscal end of the program as it is funded this far.
So how important was the incentive versus just the networking and, people coming
Yeah.
here and getting really connected with the community right off
Yeah.
the get-go.
As we knew, comparable to other programs, the incentives caught their attention. It was very welcomed. We've made that a process where it's not a lump sum to them. They have to participate in certain things in the full amount. But the incentive was important to get their attention. I think that what we have discovered is that the median income of the folks is a little bit more than we had expected, which is great for our area. But I think still including some type of incentive to make sure that it just helps them with getting into the area and moving expenses, settling in, things like that is important. But the thing that we have found is just the partnerships, the networking, just going to those receptions and meetups and watching them interact with each other and find commonalities to folks that already live here. That has been the true winner. And that, bringing that into the community and building this network of them has been the success of the program, in my opinion.
Helps.
Thank you all
Not.
for what
Thank
you've
you.
done.
Thank you all so much.
Commission, the next order of business is consideration of approval of a temporary occasion license for Rotary Foundation of Johnson City, P.O. Box 1187, Johnson City, Tennessee. Braxton Smith is here with the Rotary Club.
I would like to raise an objection with this applicant.
Come on, man. I'm sure most of you are in Rotary or know what it is.
So have you read the rules and regulations concerning the sale of alcohol inside the city of Johnson City?
Yes, sir.
And do you agree to abide by them?
Yes, sir.
And for Ms. Jennings' benefit, what is your name and address?
Braxton Smith, 555 Gammon Road, and that's Kingsport, Tennessee, 37663.
Are there questions for the applicant? Tell us about your event.
Great question. Lindsay's coming up after me to do that, but
Okay, well then, never mind.
for me, Friday after 5, if you haven't been there, show up. It's great. It's a local event where
But-
there are, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I can do it if you want me to.
No, please.
Local musicians show up, we pour beer, and it's a great time for families. Short, sweet, to the point.
Do you need a motion? I do.
I would move for approval.
We have a
Thank you.
motion and a second. If there aren't objections, we'll call the roll. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock,
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Mayor Wise.
Yes. Congratulations. When is the first Founders After 5?
May 13th.
Came from the crowd.
I'm May 20th, that's why I was like, I don't
It's
think I'm
not
first,
Founders
but-
After, what, I'm
Friday
sorry,
after
Friday
5.
after 5. It'll take a while for that to get out of my head. I'm sorry.
Close enough. Thank you, guys.
Will y'all just be doing one or several?
Our club's only doing one. I think
Okay.
the morning club's doing a different one.
Okay,
We'll be here later.
okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Commission, the next order of business is the item that you added earlier, item number 5.2, which is consideration of approval of a beer license for Juan Sayo LLC, 104 Tipton Street, Johnson City, Tennessee. Raphael is here.
Hello,
You'll give your name and address, please.
Raphael Zabala, 561 Rockingham Road, Johnson City.
And we're not pronouncing your restaurant right.
We knew some people would have trouble with that. One Shao.
One, okay.
One
Shao. So Shao was my business partner when we opened up Stir Fry Cafe 18 years ago beside Barnes & Noble. Some of you might recall. So he tragically passed away about 4 months after we opened that restaurant. So this is a tribute to him and putting that up there. So
Very nice.
I know the answers to this, but have you read the rules and regulations concerning the sale of alcohol inside the city of Johnson City?
Yes.
And do you agree to abide by them?
Yes.
All right.
I would move for
We
approval.
have a motion
Second.
and a second. If there's not objection, we'll call the roll.
Commissioner Brock.
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter.
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler.
Yes.
Mayor Wise.
Yes. And tell us a little bit about the establishment and what's going to make it different or unique.
Well, it's the first fresh build downtown in a while, I think. So we built the restaurant from scratch and obviously broke ground in March 2020. Perfect timing. So it's been a long 2-year process, but it's finally complete. And we're bringing some of the stir fry dishes back. You know, I hear that a lot. Like, you know, those of you that came to stir fry or come to stir fry in Kingsport. So some of those Asian dishes will be back. And so we kind of mixed in some Mexican and Latin food too to accompany that, and it's a really cool space. Bars on the second floor, windows that look over. You know, it's a very prominent corner of downtown. So we're really happy to build a nice building there on the corner of the entrance to downtown Johnson City.
When will you officially open?
We're looking at possibly Cinco de Mayo, if the very latest, May 9th.
Okay.
Of course, everyone's issues, staffing is, I'm sure you hear it all the time, so.
Yes.
Raphael, we just thank you for your continued investment in Johnson City. I mean, the product you always bring to us is quality, and that building is amazing down there. I mean, it looks like it just fits right in and it's brand new, so
Thank you, appreciate that.
we're excited to get inside soon.
I'm excited to have you inside.
Thank you
Hope to
again.
see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on the agenda this evening, appreciate it.
Thank you. Next item is our consent agenda, and I guess I'll start with Commissioner Hunter. Do you have things that you'd like to pull? Sorry to startle you. It's a 50-50 chance. It's you or
Absolutely.
Commissioner Murphy.
It changed so much.
While you're thinking about, I'd like to
Yep.
pull 6.1.1. I don't usually pull things, but today I will.
I'll do that too, so we're
Okay.
good. 623.
623, all right. Commissioner Brock?
I will pull 6.2.1, just to overview.
6.2.1, okay. Is that it?
I'll make that it.
Okay. Commissioner Murphy?
I think the ones that I'm interested are already pulled, but thank you for asking.
They're same thing. We're good.
All right. So I guess we'll go in order. First one is the approval of the mural project. Just wanted to ask those involved, if you could just, for the benefit of the public, address the process by which an artist is selected and then how the project is funded. Because we're getting some feedback that I think is just misinformed, that, you know, we're going out of town to find somebody with a paintbrush and we're spending tax dollars that might be invested in other ways. So if you could just talk through those two elements, please.
Right, so some of our projects are privately funded and others are funded through the city. Those that are privately funded are run through the Johnson City Parks and Recreation Foundation, and I believe the one on the agenda tonight is done in that fashion. So we do not have a local preference clause through the purchasing department. The Johnson City Public Art Committee distributes a national call for artists. And a selection committee reviews submissions, which include images of the artist's past work. They select several artists to develop design proposals. And they're chosen based on the quality of their past work, the amount of experience they have working on large outdoor surfaces, and they really look at the style of the artist's work as well to determine if it's a good fit for the mural site itself and for the project theme, whatever that might be at the time.
So if a local artist wanted to be considered for this or other projects, what would that process have looked like?
They would have submitted through our purchasing department through the vendor registry system. They would have uploaded materials ranging from their images of the previous work, as I mentioned, their resume, submission form, cover letter, basic materials. They have to submit something as far as insurance that explains, if they don't already have the insurance in hand that the city requires, that they will provide that if they are awarded the commission. So they submit that, and then the selection committee reviews all proposals.
Thank you. Are there other questions for Cheyenne while she's at the podium?
It's going to be a very interesting mural with the different depths of it, the different buildings, and I think we have another building owner that's adjacent to that who may be very open to letting it expand a little bit if you want. So
Right,
Keisha
right.
has information on that.
And I believe our Public Art Committee Chair would like to say a few words, if she may, at this time
By all
regarding the
means,
mural.
please.
Hi, thank you very much. I wanted to just mention also that our committee of selection is not just us and the people in the committee. We make also sure that we have people from the community as well as the people on the committee. So that's really important to us to always have another, overview of the city. And we've been vocal about having our local artists apply. And we'll keep working on that. We have often few applications from our local artists, and we're trying to figure out why and how. We just had a very accessible new mural code coming up, and so we also had very few applications from our local artists. So any ideas on your side, we are welcoming them, but we're going to just continue working on our side. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
And will some of your fundraisers return this summer?
Yes, yeah.
What do you have in the pipeline for those who want to be financially supportive of the public art efforts that your group is a part of?
So that's a great question. We have a donation button now on our website, and we also do a 5x5 event in the summer where we welcome. We have many artists donating like little 5x5, and we intend for those to be very accessible. But we are always very happy if someone wants to be a little bit more generous. We just want people to be able, of all age and all background, to be able to buy some of the artwork. And we're looking to maybe do some more fundraising. We are just very busy and a bunch of volunteers, so we're trying our best for that. But thank you for that question.
Do you know when the 5x5 event will be, or does it have a date yet?
It usually coincides with the week just before the Little Chicago Festival. So that's usually what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to say one thing, if you just stay up there. I don't speak for the commission, but I think everyone on the commission would agree with what I'm about to say. The work of the Public Art Committee has just been amazing. And what y'all have done to beautify Johnson City, to improve our curb appeal, but just appeal to the culture and the imagination and creativity of our people. We get comments all the time about how beautiful things look. So I want to thank y'all, and I know you are a group of volunteers, but very talented volunteers, and I think what you're doing for our city is amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
I will add to that. I had a family visit that had not been here for about 8 or 10 years, and so now they're what were little kids when they moved away. We're now early teens. And they were telling me how Johnson City looks so different and better and different and better and different and better. And finally, I was curious enough to say, how was it different and how was it better? And the example they could give was all the art.
Oh, I appreciate it. It really it means a lot to us, all of us. We're very blessed with a lot of volunteers that are really putting their heart in the city, and we're hoping that people can be a little bit more patient and help us get there also to get us more local artists involved.
I think
Thank
they
you.
deserve a hand.
Thank you.
Can I clarify one thing? Just making sure that people know that these art enthusiasts have donated their money for this. There's no tax money from Johnson City for this. This $37,500 was all money donated by people that want to see this. So they're an amazing group of people in so many ways. So,
Right. Thanks.
A lot of times the artwork may appear originally as if it may not fit in the community, but there's one of the murals that was just recently completed of the children. I can't remember the name of it, but it's right outside my office window, and there is not a day that goes by that there aren't. And it's not an interactive art piece like the Wings in Nashville or whatever, but there's not a day that doesn't go by that people aren't having their photo taken in front of that mural.
How do you get anything done looking out the window?
I don't. Between that, people driving the wrong way on the road and all those kind of things.
Right. Right.
And I just also want to say that we've been very fortunate to have artists that are coming from outside, but they do a lot of research about Johnson City. They don't just kind of plop a design there. So they meet with people. They go to the library. They just learn a lot about the city and give us something. So it's been wonderful that way too.
One last question. Is there anything happening this weekend?
This weekend, yes, there is Art Struck Festival, which is also a big event that we got a little hit with COVID, so it's our second one, but we wanted to keep the momentum, so it's all about local artists. We give them the opportunity to show their work and sell their work for free. We are not charging anything for that, and we are creating some events beside it to showcase them. And so that's going to be a wonderful event on Saturday.
At the farmer's market? Or?
It's King's Commons in Commerce Street.
Okay. Right.
Thank you. Thanks.
Founders.
Founders.
Founders. Okay.
I should know better, right?
All right, then, next item, Commissioner Brock, you had asked to pull 6.2.1, and I am assuming that's going to be a Charlie or James Ellis. To get Charlie and James Ellis, it's a twofer. Oh, that's all right.
Okay.
The Commissioner Hunter, what questions did you have on that?
I think that was mine.
Oh, I'm
right?
sorry,
Yeah.
Commissioner
No,
Brock,
it's all right,
I'm,
it's all right, it's all
my
right.
handwriting.
Well,
Yes.
I'm just so excited we're getting closer and closer to getting this project out of the ground out there. Just thought maybe if you would catch up a little bit and a little bit about GRC that's being proposed here.
What we are asking, of course, is to award, we had this project, well, let me say this first. This project, as James well knows, proceeded, I came back here 16 years ago to the city, and the discussion, and James can elaborate a little bit, that this has been going on in the discussion phase for decades. The expansion of, not necessarily Wingdeer Park, but expansion of finding a suitable area for athletic field expansion for the greater good of our citizens and community, and of course, working with our friends at the Convention and Visitors Bureau who have been working with James to bring tournaments to town. Of course, benefit not only the community, but an economic driver for our community as well. But this specific project, of course, was put out to bid. We had 3 qualified bidders. We are recommending, of course, that the apparent low bidder, which is GRC of Kingsport, be awarded this bid. And the only thing I would stipulate and clarify, the staff recommendation is approval that includes the mayor to sign all contract documents, not just the escrow agreement, give him the authority to do so. But this project, as you know, was situated on land that we acquired about 3 or 4 years ago, 37 acres immediately to the south of existing Wingdeer Park, across from the Mountain View Baptist Church. And this 37 acres does include a fourplex complex. And if you look at the diagram in front of you, you can see where it's the letters correspond to the site plan. But we have 4 300-foot synthetic, these are synthetic, fully synthetic turf softball fields, 50 yards by 100-yard overlay with lights, fully lit. Item 2 is 55-yard by 110-yard grass fields with lights inlaid.
Charlie, excuse me, could I stop you right there?
Sure, yeah.
I thought we had changed that to turf fields. Did we get a bid and a quote to turf those?
The number 2 you're talking
Yes,
about?
yes, sir.
You're talking about the
B.
The B?
B.
We have an option to change that, but the actual bid does include just, these are grass fields with lights. The exterior fields does have in the bid.
What's that? Yeah, that's what
We could
asked to
certainly
come back
request
and
to
bid on
change that, but that would be an additional cost of about could be up to $1.4 million for those fields. So just keep that in mind. They are lit fields, they are grass fields. And we certainly could revisit that, with the CHA, but that's what, to your knowledge, is that? Yeah, that's my understanding. 346 paid parking spaces with a grass overflow parking. We do have a core building area, and this building area does have, in the center, does have women's, family, and men's toilets in there, along with a concession stand area and a floor scoring area on the second floor. We did include, consistent with Wingdeer Park, we try to have similar amenities, picnic table areas, playground, and of course, a maintenance building, which does have an additional feature. And this is the ad alternate I want to make sure you're all aware of. We did request an ad alternate be placed in this project that included an umpire changing building area. And you say, why is this important? We've hosted a number of tournaments over the years, and both James and Brenda can elaborate on that, where having an area to accommodate up to, and again, the numbers, it's 60 umpires, and they're not always there at one time in terms of occupying that immediate space, but in terms of cycling through an area for men and women umpires. We've never before had this. We've always had sort of rough accommodations. This was part of the feature that we felt was really important to this. This is an ad alternate, but we are recommending this ad alternate. We also have a walking trail, a 0.48 mile loop around the course itself. As you know, there's a lot of folks that come with families. This is not inconsistent with Vineyard Park, which obviously has a trail around the fourplex we have, a main entry road, and a loop road. So this is the main area of the project itself. I'll let James expound on some of this, but the Park Recreation Board did endorse the purchase and development of diamond fields and rectangular fields at its meeting in January 25th of 2018. If you recall, they were asked by the commissioners present if funding was at issue, what should be the primary concentration. And diamond fields were requested, even though obviously rectangle fields are important. And that was part of the feature of this particular project, to include both the diamond and rectangle inlay in the fourplex, as well as the two fields we just mentioned as well. And so this addition, this project before you, if approved, creates a total of 9 diamond fields at Wingdeer Park. And also, this addition creates a total of 9 rectangle fields at Wingdeer Park, with a potential for a future 10th field. So this project is certainly a big step forward for our community, as well as our Parks and Recreation Department. And I'll ask James to make some comments here as well, just to see if he has anything to add.
Sure. Thank you, Charlie. First thing I would like to say that the action taken tonight by this group, by the commission, hopefully will pave the path for the next 30 years. It's been 31 years this month since we opened Wingdeer Park, and it's been phenomenal. So thank you for your support. A couple of things that this will do: it will allow our citizens the opportunity to be able to practice and play at optimum times. And what I mean by that, right now, excuse me, right now we're playing, some evenings we're playing 4 games a night. And that makes it very, very difficult on some of the folks who are working to be out there at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night playing ball. So that gives us optimum times to play. Also, as you well know, with the synthetic grass surface, that will give us the opportunity to play games when normally, if we have inclement weather, we wouldn't have the opportunity to do so. One of the bigger things for our maintenance department, it gives them ample time to do proper maintenance on the grass fields that in the past we haven't had the opportunity to do. Trying to work on the fields November, December is a bit of a challenge. So now with the additional fields, that will give us the time to do that. And as Mr. Stahl said, to be able to host larger economic events for our city. To move to 9 fields, that's phenomenal. There's not another city in the area outside of Tiger River in South Carolina that I'm aware of that has that ability. So I think this would be a win-win for the city.
Are there questions for Mr. Ellis?
I guess you can probably see the disappointment on my face a bit on the 2 rectangular fields, that one of the reasons we asked for that to come back in the bid was because the turf fields on the softball fields are going to be smaller size. So for larger tournaments to be able to play and to continue to play during inclement weather, we need the larger fields, which those 2, suffice. So it was my assumption that because the price went up considerably on that it included the turf on those 2 fields. Was that your
That was mine also, same
understanding?
thing from what we discussed last time.
To my knowledge, that was not the reason for the price increase. However, as Mr. Stahl said, we can go back and revisit that if you would like.
Yeah, I think that's what you should be hearing. I thought that's what we were talking about all along, so.
So what would be the process? I mean, would we defer this or approve and or Charlie?
Yeah, like I said, I don't know where the miscommunication, I'm trying to search in my mind where that, misinformation came out as far as the turf versus the grass. But that being said, I would recommend you do approve this bid, and we revisit with the architect, bringing back a change amendment at a most reasonable opportunity.
Okay. Are there other questions on that item?
Yes, sir, I do have a question. Looking at our bids, I see you guys reached out to a substantial amount of contractors, and you had hardly any responses.
But one thing you do not know, or maybe you do know, we initially were going to bid this project about 2 months ago. And the time frame for completion of this project was still anticipated to be in April of 2023. There was informal feedback apparently expressed to the architect that the supply chain and the inflationary uncertainties were not bringing forth prospective bidders. So this was delayed to see if there was some opportunity to solicit potential interest from as many bidders as we could find. Well, we were fortunate to have 3 qualified bidders, but at one point there was just one bid that was going to be forthcoming. And again, we feel this is a very important project. Certainly, this project, while it has, I believe, 411 days as a contract time, the architect tells me this is intended to be completed by the end of May of next year if this bid is awarded tonight. About 30-day mobilization time if this bid is awarded tonight from now. So by May, they should be on site.
That's great.
I have another question. Looking at the ad alternate for GRC, they have quoted $414,000, which is higher than the other 2 qualified bidders, almost $100,000. What's the reasoning behind that? Because I know that ad alternate is the umpire changing space along with the maintenance building. But what's the reasoning of the large increase versus the other 2 bidders?
I can't answer that. I mean, obviously, this is not unusual. I will say this: you'll many times find sometimes you'll find the higher bidder may have different pricing for ad alternates. On the flip side of the coin, you could have a low bid that's has very similar to the higher bid. So I don't really know the reasoning. The material, the specifications that they were bidding on is consistent. So nothing was changed from the bid was consistent, and they were bidding on the same product. So I don't know the answer to that, sir.
Is it worth putting that out as a separate bid, the ad alternate, to save $100,000?
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. We have Mr. Trivett, has worked on some projects, and he could speak to that, where we had a opportunity to use an existing contractor, and it was recommended that we seek alternative bids, and the bids were in the example that I'm citing was $250,000 more. The cost of mobilization, the uncertain supply chain, and material acquisition at this point in time, I would not recommend that we delay in trying to get another bid or bids for a product that's really a smaller component of this overall project, but still a necessary component in our mind, or we wouldn't be recommending it.
Questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Stahl. Sorry, Commissioner.
What would you think a reasonable time expectation for us to hear back on pricing for the turf fields might be that we could?
Well, I mean, if I could get in 2 weeks, I'm gonna. I mean, we're in contact with these folks very, very regularly, and I'll be in contact with them tomorrow.
Okay.
Whether this question was raised or not, just on the status.
Well, I thought you brought a price back. We heard.
1.4 million.
Yeah.
That's
And that's what we thought got added in.
That's an estimate, and again, I wish I could explain where the confusion came from. I can't, other than to say it's it's certainly something we'll revisit.
Yeah, and I think, I think we would commit, and again, apologies for the not noting that it did not include the turf in there, but I think we could commit to coming back no later than the second week in May, if we can get the pricing by then. And I think the most important part of that is us identifying funding for that as
Right.
well. So we will need to work through getting the estimate officially from them, as well as finding the funding, and come back to you the second meeting in May. If we don't have it by then, we will come back the second meeting in June.
Okay, thank y'all.
Mr. Stahl, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Next item, this is Commissioner Hunt.
Yes, consent.
Okay, the next item is Commissioner Hunter's request to pull 6.2.3, which is a water meter and bench meter testing contract. So Brenda's going to
I
come
was
up.
gonna say, Brenda's
got
gonna
this
do
one.
Yes. Hey, thanks, Tom. Yeah, I just wanted to ask in the summary, in a world of inflation where we're seeing, well, even in this packet, other items are 30% increases in cost. This notated almost 10.5% decrease in overall cost. And I just wanted to see if we could go through that summation.
Summary of what that is for services, so it's not for parts and pieces. So we have roughly 46,000 water accounts. Of those, we call large meters account for about 230 to 240, and they would be 3-inch and larger. And so what we do to those meters is annually test them, and then make the repairs if they have decreased in accuracy. And we've been doing that for a number of years. And so we bid this service all the time. As part of this, there are some additional testing that's put in there if they're needed. So really, the core of the contract is that large meter testing. That component of it actually went up by 18%. The overall summary, yes, it represents a decline, but it's not really, by the time we get to the end of the year and we do our testing, the bulk of what we're going to be testing is probably going to be about 18% higher.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other
Thanks.
questions on that? If not, is there a motion to take action on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Have a
Second.
motion and a second. If there's not objection, we'll call the roll.
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Commission, your next order of business is consideration of ordinances. The one before you is a second reading and public hearing. It's an ordinance to rezone .885 acres at 1105 Emeryville Road from R2 district to R2C district to create 4 single-family lots. Peyton?
Good evening, Commissioners. I am actually taking this one over for Ms. Hodges for this round. So I know that you guys have heard this presentation from her a few times, but I'm going to give it my best go. So just like Ms. Ball said, the request is for a rezoning from R2 to R2C over off Embryville Road. You can see this is the site in question. Originally, this came in as a townhome request, and from the neighborhood meeting and feedback from the community, the petitioner has actually taken that request down to get it to the R2C. And so, again, you know, you've been over this history a little bit. The back lot ended up being sold off to the property owner back here. And so now the request that we have before you are these 4 lots right here. And so what this rezoning is doing is it's essentially asking to go from the 2 lots that would be allowed by right with the current zoning to have the flexibility to create 4 infill lots. So just so you guys get a good idea, I know that this has been a really popular slide, the conversation of R2 and especially R2C. These are, again, the dimensions for the districts. It is expected to go residential. And again, some more photos. surrounding zoning. Staff does recommend approval, and there have been no changes to the proposal since the last time when it was deferred. I would like to note that the petitioner, Mr. Begley, actually brought in an affidavit saying that he wanted to do single-story homes. That cannot be used in this rezoning. That cannot be something that we condition because Tennessee does not allow conditioned rezonings. But I did want to make note that the applicant did bring that forward. Other than that, I believe it is public hearing, and I am here to answer any questions that you guys may have.
So are you saying it was deferred on first reading?
It was deferred on second reading at the
Okay.
last
I got
meeting,
you.
and so
We
last,
wanted you to get a chance to be
Yeah.
part of the fun.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
so you guys get public
Yeah,
hearing
so
again.
public hearing is still open. We actually did not close public hearing at the meeting 2 weeks ago. But before we kind of invite any additional public hearing, there's not a need to repeat comments that were made the last time, but are there questions for staff?
I do. Peyton, could you go back to the slide that shows the house that's on there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that house going to be torn down? Is that, I mean, it's the only way they can get 4 lots.
Yes.
Are there other questions for staff while Peyton's there? Not? I don't know that I gavel in a public hearing that I didn't close, but just, for emphasis, public hearing is open, so anyone wishing to add additional comment in favor or opposition to 4804-22, invite you to the podium. If you'll give your name and address, Mr. Begley.
Jerry Begley. My address is 672 Lakeside Dock Drive in Kingsport. So it seems to be that a few of the concerns from the neighborhood were whether I was going to be building on the lots or not. So since then, it has come about that I have a contract on these 4 lots from a young builder here in Johnson City. And he has, like Peyton said, signed an affidavit that he is not going to change the configuration of the proposed 4 lots. He is going to leave that as is. And then he is also going to build single family, but single level homes. And that seemed to be a concern of the neighborhood. Most of that neighborhood is ranch style houses. So he is committed to continue that style on these 4 lots.
By that style, you mean ranch style?
Ranch style,
Okay.
1 level, single family homes.
And I'm not sure how these lots would lay out. I can't do that visually in my head. I mean, they'll be facing
In Reveal-
long ways, they'll be facing the road? Or
Yes.
will they be more shotgun
No,
style?
they'll be, all 4 of them will be facing Embryville Road.
Are there other questions for Mr. Begley, or? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor or opposed?
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for your time and your service. 3 of us figured we'd just stand up here tonight. We've been here before, and we want to ask some more questions, and we want some more clarification on some of the items. We've been at this for over a year now. We're
Can you
here-
give your name and
Oh,
address
I'm
for Ms.
sorry.
Jennings,
Yes.
please?
Jenny, Susan Kellogg. I reside at 2218 North Greenwood Drive, Johnson City.
I'm John Fine. I reside at 1016 Embryville Road.
Theodore Sims, 2206 Wendell in Johnson City.
Thank you.
So we're here tonight to oppose the rezoning, and simply because we don't see the need to change it from an R2 to an R2C. There have been several points made throughout this last year will be met with an R2, and that is profit for the owner, the builder, revenue for the city, the safety and health of the neighborhood, and infill accommodations. So all of these things are still met, leaving it at an R2. So we simply don't understand why that would need to be changed. We bought property knowing it was an R2, and we don't understand why that would need to be changed. So to clarify some of the other things that we've had questions on at the different meetings, neighborhood meetings, planning commission meetings, and then the city commission meeting last time. There's always reference being made by the builder and by the planning commission that an R3 and an R4 are right across the street from this proposed site. And we want to share on the photo here, along with the size of the road, there's a safety traffic concern, but right across the street is misleading, because right across the street and down a steep embankment is the R3 and the R4. As you can see, those apartment complexes, that's what they're referencing. And so there is no access from that point. You have to go down to Antioch Road to get into those apartments. So again, we want to make it clear that the R2 stay an R2. Do not see the need to make that change. And then as far as the traffic goes, in the agenda from the last summary city commission, there was an engineering and transportation noted that the potential site distance conflict and that this would be assessed during the preliminary plat phase if the rezoning is approved. So my question is, what does that mean? What happens if it is rezoned and engineering and transportation then assess that traffic concern? What does that mean? Does that mean the street will need to be widened? What happens at that point? Obviously, they're not going to assess it right now because it hasn't been rezoned, but when it is rezoned, what will happen? So that's a question that we have and would like an answer to. If you know, if there's been something like this in the past that you could cite. And then the selling of the portion to Mr. Rusty Wilson, that piece, that parcel 5, I know that staff in the development approved that plat transaction. Is it complete? I hear that it is done, the transaction is made. Has it been sold? I don't know that, so that's another question. And the only reason I bring that up is for my opposition because of where I live. And Tad, if you can go to that. With the site here and where I live, right there next to it, Mr. Rusty Wilson owns the property below the proposed site and in between his home and my home. And I'm concerned because Mr. Wilson was at the first meeting, and then sometime after that, the transaction was made to purchase the parcel 5 of this site. And Mr. Wilson has not been at any other of the meetings, and nor does he have to be. But I am a little apprehensive because I don't know what might happen in the future with that, with any other transactions or deals that have been made. Again, it's not anything that I would know or need to know, but it is something that I'm concerned about in the future because of where my property sits next to that proposed site. And if you change it from an R2 to a R2C, it's an easy jump. It makes it so much easier than to say, oh, well, let's change it to an R3. And again, that same message will be heard that right across the road, there's an R3. So those are my concerns. We hadn't heard about the affidavit with the single-level homes. The home that is shown on the property site that's going to be torn down has been vacant and abandoned for some time. Homes in the neighborhood are single-family, and they are ranch-style homes, but they're much nicer looking than that home that you saw. So I don't want you to think that that is the type of home that is in that area. These are mostly brick homes, high-quality homes, high-quality builds, and we're just wanting the neighborhood and the community to stay the same. So with this new information on the affidavit, I guess I would ask Mr. Bagley when that sale is taking place, or has it taken place?
It will not take place until the rezoning is approved.
Okay. Okay. And then finally, for me, and I know these two gentlemen would like to say something too, again, at every meeting we've been at, a neighborhood meeting, planning meeting, and last time at the city commission meeting, we've brought up, and maybe not strong enough, but a question that we've had since the beginning, and that is that in the bylaws of the Johnson City Planning Commission, Article 11, Sub F, which is the application for rezoning request, it states that the applicant shares a brief presentation on how this zoning change would be for the community benefit rather than for the benefit of the individual requesting the change or the person or persons owning the property. So again, another question. I'm sorry, I'm full of questions tonight, just trying to clarify it all. But how can an application for rezoning request be passed without that applicant's summary? To me, that would be a deficient application. So I'm questioning how we even got to this point. And that is why I'm opposing it, all of those reasons. I just haven't seen the benefit to the community at this point for changing it to a 2RC. Thank you.
Thank you.
And do you have any questions for me?
Let me just, I think one of the questions that you asked that warrants addressing is what happens with the traffic concern site distance question. So I'm going to put a pin in that just so we don't lose it. And then the community benefit application, you asked you asked the question to Mr. Begley. Am I missing? I feel like I might be missing another question. There was community benefit and the site distance.
Right, the site distance with the traffic and how that after the rezoning. And a lot of this, I guess, will happen after it's rezoned, and we may not know until that point. I understand that. I just wanted to get a little more clarification and to bring these points to your attention too in your deliberation about the rezone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Theodore Sims again, 2206 Wendale. And during the previous city commission meeting, I had referenced the fact that you're dealing with an incline, a relatively blind curve in the intersection with Wendale, all coming kind of right together. Commissioner Murphy noted in his discussion that, can someone get this off? I need to. Commissioner Murphy had noted that he had driven the area. He had seen some of the issues that were discussed. For the benefit of the people who have not driven in the area, who haven't seen this, I'm trying to get off of that. Oh, there it is up there. Yep. Okay. So this short video, Wendale is over on the left. There's a car sitting on the road, and then the entirety of lot number 1 runs up to the white sign. Immediately behind me is a set of trees. These trees are going to show up in the next video. And all of this is painting a story. If we can go. So this is showing Emberville. You have the apartments down below. You've got a very narrow street, which has been referenced previously, 17 feet wide compared to Wendale being 19 feet wide. There are the trees. So the trees note where the lot essentially starts. So traffic is having to come around the pedestrian. You saw the motorcycle that was not planned as part of all this. So that's just another hazard that we're dealing with in the area. Going back to my Excel file, where is it? These are two cars sitting on Emberville. They're on each side of the road. They're as far apart as they can possibly be. The fact that there is not a whole lot of room between these cars is more evident when you look at the two cars sitting on Wendale. Despite the fact that Wendale is an interior road, it runs between North Greenwood and Emberville. It is 2 feet wider than Emberville. So you're dealing with a larger proportion of traffic dealing with this smaller road. Now, one of the points that has been brought up more than once, and I apologize for making these very small. I cannot format Excel the way I'd like to. John, could you pass those out? This is a breakdown real quickly of property taxes in the area. The top line is my house, 2206 Wendale, and you can see the property taxes that have been paid. The orange bar is one house shown twice on Signal. The first one, the lot is as it sits, 0.29 acres. The second one is 0.22 acres. And what I've done is I took the two blue bars over on the right. If you get the value for an entire acre, and then you divide it by the size of the lot, you come up with the 59,523. You move it over, and then the value for a lot of 0.22 acres, which would allow 4 houses to sit on that on the 4 lots, you get the property taxes, which are comparable to what are being paid now. The green bars, if you were to not rezone the property, if you were to put 2 houses on the lots, you're actually going to be generating more in property taxes than what you would if you had 4 houses on the property. And my final point is that infill development, as has been noted in the city agenda summary, infill development is absolutely one of the prerogatives of the city. Infill development does not require that rezoning occur for infill development to occur. You don't have to have one for the other. So development can happen on this property without the rezoning. I appreciate the time.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak during public hearing? If not, we'll,
Well, I was going to ask the landowner a question, but it doesn't have to be in public hearing, I guess.
I'll withdraw my strike of the gavel. Mr. Begley?
Sorry. And I know you may not know the answer, but being a builder, you may be able to make some assumptions as to the driveways and parking and whatnot. We've seen other areas where the parking is such that people have to back out onto the street in order to leave their properties. Would that be the case, or is there turnaround, or is there ability for them to make a forward-facing exit from their property?
The visibility issues will be addressed when the plan is presented for the lots, and they're asking on, I don't know if it showed it on that or not, but some of the driveways are beside of each other for those visibility reasons, instead of having one here, one here, one here, one here.
And I guess I'm asking more, is there a ability for them to turn around on their property in order to, instead of having to back out
If
onto the
that's what
street.
they require, that'll be done. He intends on doing houses with a two-car garage, so there'll be parking for 2 cars. And if they propose, that's a requirement to approve the plat, then that will be done.
That's probably a staff question, because I know the way, when the plans come to us for review, and there are those site distance questions, I don't know if there's an Andy question or a Preston question, but we are concerned about what you can and can't see, and that will dictate whether a driveway can be on this side of a lot or that side of a lot, or what's. So not to put Mr. Begley on the spot, but who from staff might address that question from the neighbors about how that site distant question is reviewed?
Driveway permits.
Anthony Todd, you win.
Yes, I drew a straw. The engineering division is usually the one that reviews driveways whenever there's a driveway planned on a street. So you look for the site distance, and they have to have a certain site distance in order to be able to put the driveway there.
And so what happens, you know, they come in and they've got 4 lots and they've set their house on them, and there's a 60-foot frontage. What happens if you can't get your site distance?
Then they're gonna have to work through something else. If it means improvements beyond their site, we have required that in the past.
Can you give an example of what kind
On
of?
Carousels Road, a few years ago, we made them change the road slightly in order to be able to build a denser development so that they could get site distance at their driveways.
Thank you. Ms. Ball?
Anthony, could you speak to the timing of when they have to obtain the driveway permit? They obtain that before they get the building permit, so that there's a determination made on. Because my assumption would be before the house is built, there would need to be a driveway permit along with it indicating where that driveway would go.
And I guess I'm Wallace McCulloch, city engineer, so I'm relatively new. And I'm not as familiar with all the regulations on this, but they would submit is there gonna be a subdivision plan for the whole layout? So in that layout for the 4 lots, we can get them to show the driveways and how they're gonna be oriented. At that time, we'll check site distance to make sure that they have the visibility that they need to get out. And I think your point about backing out, that may be one of the things that we address, where they have to be able to back up in their front yard and before they pull out, so that they can pull out forward and really be able to see and not be interfered with.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then Preston, do you want to address the community benefit for this application and bylaws question?
Sure, I'll do my best. I hate to make reference to previous staff and kind of lean on a time when we weren't here, myself and Peyton, but I have to, unfortunately. That particular language in the bylaws has been in the bylaws for some time. And my experience with that type of statement or ask from my past is that it is generally fairly subjective, and that's where the Planning Commission should ask any applicant, what are your intentions? Are your intentions solely revenue-driven, or have you reached out to and have conversation with the community? Have you engaged the community to see whether or not there is some meeting of the minds and kind of coming together on your proposal? I will add that that a statement of that type in the bylaws is not regulatory, so it doesn't carry the same weight as the zoning code or construction standards or the city code.
Well, and it may be helpful just to put on our imagination hats and just think in terms of, a statement like that is pretty broad and open to a lot of interpretation. In fact, it sounds like a high school speech class, extemporaneous speech topic.
Right.
You know, start talking about this.
Sure.
And in one sense, what would the benefit be? one could imagine it's the affordability of housing, like looking at the spreadsheet that you've put together, to get at that higher rate of tax, you're talking about $400,000+ homes, whereas if you're breaking it into the R2C lot rather than an R2 lot, you are making a product available, presumably at a price that is more affordable for a prospective buyer. Would that be a community benefit?
Well, that's ultimately a decision for the planning commission to make. Yes, like you said, I could stand up here and kind of pontificate from a planning perspective on those, but it's that statement in the bylaws is really one for the planning commission to consider. And the planning commission wrestled with this on a number of occasions and ultimately made a recommendation of approval. And so we bring that recommendation to you all.
Questions? Did I close public hearing? You kind of threw me
No, I'm
off.
sorry.
Okay, now
Yeah, you gotta close it.
Now it's really closed, for real. And we'll turn to the body for deliberation. I want to acknowledge the neighbors, and having heard what you said, the one thing that you said, and I know you don't probably mean it in the way you said it, but you want it to stay the same. And I don't know that we can ever promise that we can keep it the same, but I do think the spirit of that comment is wanting it to stay the same in a sense that it's harmonious and consistent and in keeping with your neighborhood. And so the tension here is the one where anytime you have your house and there's something about to happen, every time my neighbor gets out to start doing work on their house, I'm always a little nervous, like what's going to happen? Not really, my neighbors are great, but anytime there's any kind of change, you do wonder, is it going to be better or worse? And I can appreciate that. At the same time, I think one of the things that we really want to preserve for your neighborhood is the consistency of the single-family home. One of the concerns that I would have if I were a neighbor there, having seen this happen in other neighborhoods, would be if you keep it the R2 and build these $400,000+ homes, do you all of a sudden end up with heights and scale that are way out of proportion with everything else? And you have, I can think of one neighborhood I'm very familiar with where there's houses and the roof lines and everything's very harmonious, and then there's just this towering monstrosity that's like 20 feet taller than every other house around it. And so know that whatever our eventual decision is, trying to respect the integrity of your neighborhood and end up with a result that we think does that is certainly part of what we're trying to do. I don't know that we can ever ensure that things stay the same, but we can certainly work to keep them in harmony. So with that, I will turn to the commission for discussion and deliberation or a motion.
I'll certainly make some comments, and I was out there this afternoon driving on Emeryville and Wendell, is that the name of the other street? And actually got out and walked on the property. That's a wonderful neighborhood there. It's very well kept, it's quiet, and I can understand the pride that all the neighbors have in that area. And I live on that side of town, so I actually cut through Seminole often. And note there's a new, 2 or 3 new houses that are on Seminole as well because of the infill building. In really walking it and looking at the character of the neighborhood, I'm going to have a really hard time voting for an R2C. I could see maybe 3 houses in that area. It will just be so tight with 4 houses from Wendell to the other side of the White House that's there, that portion of it would certainly change the character of the neighborhood because they would be so close together. I'm not that concerned about traffic. 3 houses, 4 houses, not going to add that many additional day trips. In a lot of areas that we're considering zoning and things like that, you may have 150 new trips added, then it really becomes a great concern. And Emeryville, no doubt, it's been there a long time, and it's a very narrow road. While I was there, maybe 20 minutes or so, there were very few cars that went by at that particular time. And I do want to say this on the tax thing, property tax. I've been on the commission for almost 10 years. I have never voted for a rezoning for tax reasons whatsoever. I just don't think it's something that we kind of put in, in our heads to think. It's for reasons that we go through, that hopefully in some of my explanation you can see where I'm coming from. But Mayor, those are my comments.
Others? Motions?
Well, I'll make a motion to deny the R2C.
Motion to deny. Is there a second?
I will second that. I agree with Commissioner Brock about, if it were 3, I would have a hard time turning down 3, but with 4, it just seems too small a lots for that neighborhood for me, so that would be why. Discussion.
All right. Well, I was grateful enough to travel the neighborhood and see the curve where the proposed rezoning is wanting to take place, and having conversation after my visit boils down for me 3 houses versus 4. And an extra house will not add as many trips as an extra townhouse or apartment complex or something along those lines. So my only concern is the curve, not necessarily the 4 houses. I do hear the verbal commitment for the builder to build 4 ranch-style houses. I don't know how in the world you're going to have all those face the road with that tight of a space without them turning sideways.
Well, I think it's a question of a definition of the word ranch.
Okay. Okay, maybe it's a
Yeah, I mean, whether
mini
it's
ranch.
which
Okay.
way it's facing, which, if you, the tree streets, the houses aren't, that's a moment in time that houses were turned and put parallel to the street. That's the 50s and 60s suburbia, and yet you go to like the tree streets, the houses tend to run more long ways back in the lot. When I hear somebody say ranch, I'm, at least in my thinking, hearing a 1-story or a story and a half. I don't know that you necessarily are talking about something that's, real wide.
Okay.
But, I mean, the lot's only 60 feet, so you're gonna be kind of, to your point, you're gonna be limited.
Yeah. So the limitations of what that looks like is questions that I have. So those are just thoughts I have out loud for the public. But it just boils down to 3 to 4 houses. That's what I'm looking at.
I guess I would echo that. I see in this, in some respects, an opportunity to put some finality. If I'm in the neighborhood and live across the street or down the street or in that area, this could get denied and nothing could happen for 6 months, a year, maybe something comes back, it's a little bit different. My concern would be, until it's built, there's always a risk of what's proposed to be built being worse, and in some respects, building it within the R2, be it R2C, is still keeping the single-family home, still maintaining the setbacks, albeit a couple of them change nominally. The big thing is the lot size. It's the 3 versus 4. When you look at questions of available housing and affordable housing, that's why. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to, and trying to, you know, the truth is, large lot, single-family homes is what is pricing a lot of people out of home ownership. And what the market is looking for is smaller, more manageable lots. Having said that, I understand where you're coming from. I don't, you know, I think we're having a lot of conversation over one house. That's really what we're talking about, is one house.
And to add to your comments, and I think the question about, I think it was Mr. Wilson potentially buying the property, and I think it was confirmed that unless this is rezoned, it may fall through, which brings back to the point that the mayor made, that that entire piece could end up being something much more heavier use or heavier impact. And so in some respects, looking at it, although R2C is not exactly R2, and it's not necessarily what the neighborhood desires, it could actually, long-term, present a scenario that actually protects the neighborhood from having something more like what we saw, and I think one of the neighbors had put up with Mr. Winters or Wilson's property, which would be a much more likely scenario. And we are have a housing shortage at this point in time, and so you know, and things can change, but the likelihood of this being developed into more condensed property, whether it's Mr. Wilson or I forgot your last name, but Begley, could happen at any point in time, and we can't make those predictions or confirmations from here, and it could be something different in the future. I'm not necessarily a fan of R2C, but in our deliberation and listening, and by the way, the neighbors, y'all have done a great job of really doing some research and thinking through like a lot of different scenarios, and that's greatly appreciated, because it's not just an emotional you know, comment that y'all are bringing before us. I mean, y'all really considered the situation. But, you know, I guess while not necessarily a perfect scenario, I think it's a better solution than leaving it open for a future commission or a future developer with a different plan to look at, would be my comments.
We have a motion and a second to deny the R2C on the floor. Is there objection to calling the roll? This is to deny on second reading.
So yes means no.
Yes means
Yes means
no.
deny.
I'm sorry, what does it mean? Yes
Yes
means
means
no. Yes means deny. Okay.
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
No.
Commissioner Murphy?
No.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Wise?
No.
So that fails.
Okay. So we would need a motion to approve it on second reading, which again means there's another vote on this in, is our next meeting 2 weeks?
Do we make a motion? We can't make,
What's that?
we can make a motion now.
You can make a motion.
Yeah, we can make a motion to approve it, and then, but what I'm saying is this is still only approving it on second reading, so there'll be another vote. That's all I was saying.
That being said, I'll make a motion to approve with the hope that if the potential future buyer is watching, that there's strong consideration about how vehicles from these properties are going to be able to exit, not backing out onto the street. But, I mean, obviously,
You have a motion to approve on second reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
And I want to just reiterate, what it boils down to me is 3 versus 4 houses. And we're in a huge housing crisis. I'm glad it's not an apartment complex, townhouses, but single-family dwellings.
Not that there's anything wrong with apartment complexes
Not
or
that there's
townhouses,
anything
they just
wrong,
don't
but it
fit
does
in every environment.
It fits that neighborhood.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. If there's not objection, we'll call the roll.
Commissioner Brock?
No.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
No.
And Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Commission, your next order of business is consideration of a second reading of an ordinance to convey a certain parcel of real property owned by the city of Johnson City, located in the 5th Civil District of Unicoi County, Tennessee, to the town of Unicoi administration. You've heard this on first reading, and I believe Mr. Stahl had this, if there's any questions.
Is there any new information since the last vote? I believe Unicoi voted to approve the transaction as well. If there's not additional information, do we need to, I guess we have to open for public hearing, sorry. So, open the floor for public hearing on 480622, the conveyance of the property. Anyone wishing to speak in favor or against? If not, we'll close. We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Third. Had to do it.
Okay. If there's not, we'll call the roll.
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Commission, your next order of business is an ordinance to rezone an unnumbered parcel on the northeast corner of South Roan Street and University Parkway from R1 District to PB District and R4 District, and this is the third reading. Peyton, thank you.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. So again, I'm going to go and just talk about the rezoning request for a second. Again, we have this N piece going to R4 and the PB getting extended just a little bit that way to make way for 3 lots. Right now on third reading, and how you guys have seen this, is associated with this concept plan that we have up here. And again, that includes this entrance at the top of the hill, which addressed the site distance issues that we've talked about, throughout the course of this process. However, there were some new ideas. So the city had the idea of, well, what if we just reroute Highland and have Highland tie in to this much safer access point that has much better site distance. And so in this process of coming up with this idea, and the city reached out to the property owner who has kind of preliminarily agreed to this idea. So what we did is we drew up kind of a new concept plan, which you can see here. So they would still be able to kind of do some version of the previously mentioned concept plan, but it would look a little different with Highland coming across the property like this. Now, one thing that I want to make note of is we are changing the concept plan. We are not actually changing the rezoning. The rezoning is going to stay the same as far as this going to the R4 and the planned business extending, and the 3 lots will be the same as well. So what staff is recommending tonight is that you actually defer action on third reading to May 19th. Because what happens with this change to the concept plan is it has triggered a requirement to go back to the Planning Commission for consideration. So because the concept plan is changing, the Planning Commission needs to review it and make a recommendation to you all. So what staff is recommending is, again, a deferral on third reading until after the Planning Commission can review and make a recommendation. So what would happen is this item would go in front of the Planning Commission on May 10th, and you would hear it again on third reading on May 19th. Because again, we're not actually changing the rezoning, we're just changing that concept plan that's associated with the rezoning.
For deferral to May 19th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to defer to May 19th. Is there discussion? I just want to acknowledge to staff and to the property owner my appreciation. I look at this and see a real win-win. I mean, we knew we had issues on Highland, and this solves those issues on Highland. And we knew that the commercial development of the property needed to get out onto Roan Street, and this does that as well. And so I just am very happy with where we are now versus where we were 2 weeks ago, because I think we avoid a new issue, and we actually solve an old issue, and I don't think fundamentally hurt the project if others agree. So there's a motion and a second, I believe, to defer. Is there objection to calling the roll? If not, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Wise?
Yes.
And if I can, Commission, I just want to reiterate what the mayor said. I really commend the staff for taking a can-do approach, working with the development to come up with solutions to a problem that already exists. I appreciate the developer, but I really appreciate staff and the creativity shown around this project.
Agree.
The next order of business is an annexation request. It's a request to consider, request to proceed with the annexation of approximately 4.7 acres along the 4500 block of Bristol Highway.
Good evening, Commissioners. In front of you guys, I have a voluntary annexation request for 4.7 acres along the Bristol Highway. Again, I know we've been over this a few times now, but just to give you a good idea of the policy steps and timeline, we are just at the request to proceed. So just to reiterate, that means that this is a request that's come in, and staff is bringing this to you to see if this is something that you want to consider. If you want to have further conversations associated with this annexation and, further looking into it.
Thank you for reminding us. I think eventually we'll all remember that.
I know everybody's been so confused about the old way and the new
Yeah.
way, so I feel like a reminder is good for everyone.
Money, because I forget.
Yeah. So this is the property in question. It is currently located in Sullivan County. And again, the annexation corresponds with the plan of services. There is a somewhat concurrent process that will run alongside, which is the zoning assignment. That is not here yet. That starts at the Planning Commission if the request to proceed is approved. They are seeking a zoning assignment of B4. Now, a little bit about the site history. It is currently split zoned, planned business and residential in Sullivan County. So this piece up here, actually along the Bristol Highway, is currently commercially zoned. This back piece, however, right here with the star on it, at this imaginary line right there, is actually residentially zoned. And this property has been requested for a rezoning to the Sullivan County Board of Commissioners and denied several times. I believe 3 to be exact. The plan of services was drafted. It was in your packet, and it has been reviewed by all the applicable agencies. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Staff recommends approval. Again, I do want to emphasize with the denied rezonings in the past that the request to proceed is just that, is a request to get into those conversations about the B4 zoning and, being applied to the whole site. So it's just a preliminary step to see if you guys want to initiate those conversations. And I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Do we know why they turned it down in Sullivan County?
I do not want to speak to the Board of Commissioners, and I actually just learned about these rezonings a few hours ago, so I didn't have time to go back and watch the meetings. But from what I understand, I think that there was some neighborhood concern from the North Austin Springs Road.
So it sounds like there needs to be some discussion. I'll make a motion.
We have a motion to approve the request to proceed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion, or are you ready to vote?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll call the roll.
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Commissioners, your next order of business is a similar request to consider a request to proceed with the annexation of approximately 7.2 acres along Lone Oak Road, just north of Cherokee Elementary School. Thank you again, Peyton.
Good evening again, Commissioners. These annexations came in at approximately the same time, and so assuming they both run through the process, they will be running through the process together. So the schedule is going to look very similar for these two. Now, this is the property in question. It is approximately 7.2 acres located just north of Cherokee Elementary School. So this parcel right here is Cherokee Elementary School. And again, same thing, the annexation corresponds with the plan of services. Their requested zoning is a zoning assignment of R4. Plan of services has been reviewed by all applicable agencies. Of note, something a little bit different that you haven't necessarily seen with any of the annexations I've brought forward in the past is an estimated cost for sewer extension of $70,000. So that is something that I did want to make the commission aware of. Staff recommends approval for the request to proceed.
There a motion?
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve the request to proceed. If there's not further discussion, is there objection to calling the roll? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Brock?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fowler?
Yes.
Mayor Wise?
Yes. Ms. Ball, is there anything further?
I did want to note that as of yesterday, it's been 4 months since I've been with the city of Johnson City, and I just am very pleased to be here. I would tell you that as we've talked about tonight, the staff is incredible. You saw what the fire department did, the public works department, the planning department. I could just go on with really the accolades around how the staff have done and the amount of work that the staff has done. My hope, and I feel like people are on board with, the theory and the philosophy of serving our community, providing good customer service, and to hope that we're demonstrating that. I did want to say that at this point in time, we are very heavily working on the budget. I've talked to you all about some of those drivers being things that we know are happening in the community, such as retention and recruitment of employees. So those are things we're focusing on. We're also focusing on growth. That's been discussed tonight and has pretty much been a part of every conversation that I've had in the community, is the way this community is growing. And then also talking about how we're dealing with just growth in the economy and cost of doing business. So I again, just thank you for the opportunity to serve this community. I'm very humble, have really been able and thankful to spend a lot of time with the community members as well as the staff.
Right back at you.
Are there other, Commissioner Murphy, anything you'd like to share?
I want to encourage the community to go out and vote.
In fact, I know that Commissioner Murphy voted because I was leaving early voting and he was arriving. And I heard rumor that the vice mayor had been there earlier in the day. So 3 out of the 5 of us are done. Even if you live in the city limits of Johnson City, county elections matter very much. Early voting, vote. Be sure to get in there and vote. And it's very easy to park at Freedom Hall, especially by contrast to the Princeton Arts Center debacle parking lot that once was.
Can I?
Yes, Vice Mayor?
I want to give kudos to Mayor Wise today. He had a great talk that he gave today at the state of the city, county, and town. And I'm very impressed with his knowledge of the history of Johnson City and how we got to where we are, and he described it very well today. So I appreciate him being well representative of the city of Johnson City.
Thank you, sir.
I want to tag on to that as well. Mayor, you did an outstanding job. In fact, I was thinking about it afterwards, and I think it would be a good TED Talk for sure, but it should be on our website. I mean, I think our citizens.
I don't think I
really-
could say it again.
Yeah, well, no,
Somebody
it's-
had to record
I'm sure
that,
somebody
right?
videoed it.
Oh,
And if
okay.
there's a video of it, we need to get it on the website, because it not only is a great history of the city, but it's what you related, the historical growth, and really, just how tough some decisions are, and people think we're crazy because we decided on some things. History will tell us that, boy, that was a great vision. I mean, just like Science Hill, and I remember this well because I was here in the late 50s. The citizens thought it was absolutely insane that the school board and the Board of Commissioners was building a high school that far out of town, okay? And who needs 100 acres to build a school? So we see, I mean, those were very visionary people at that time. But anyway, it was great. And thanks for that creativity and the way you did that.
Yeah, the mayor did great. I'm just
Just
kidding.
move on,
I just
please.
want to, I'm just trying to throw some water on this.
Thank you.
And to change the subject, the library board did meet this week and would like to invite everybody to their 127th birthday party on May 13th, which is a Friday, Friday the 13th, from 4:30 to 6. But obviously with COVID, we're not able to have a celebration earlier. They also have some fun things that are coming on board right now on Facebook and Instagram. Those of you who are familiar with, and I hope I say this right, Wordle, which is apparently a popular game of some
What
sort.
rock are you living on?
So we've got our own Johnson City Public Library version of Wordle that you can find on Instagram and Facebook, and it's an exciting thing. Reading Pause is back for emerging readers, where they get to read to
our dogs.
Some animals that they bring, and that's on the third Saturday of every month from 11 to noon. Chamber Board met this week. Their audit came back with no findings, which I thought was a great thing for the chamber. Also celebrating 107 years this year. And one of the things that they talked about was their Co-Starters program, and that out of that program, 8 new businesses in this area will be launched this year, which I think is an exciting thing. But and then their young professionals programming is up and running and doing successfully well. So those are the meetings that I attended, and again, great job, Mayor, earlier today.
One last thing. Mayor Wise did great today.
Thank you. We stand adjourned. Thank you.